while things didn't go wrong on the pitch, they seem to have gone wrong off it.
This was aimed most of all at people above it. Now, which people is open to debate.
Cole by name, cold by nature. The Premier League's best number 10 is back. Hello and welcome back to the Chelsea Exposed podcast. I am at last joined by the returning, the king himself. Dan King is back with me.
Back and badder than ever.
Badder than ever?
Badder than ever, yeah.
Where have you been? Tell us. You've been on your travels.
Where haven't I been? It feels like I could have taken all this time to get from Baku for the last away Champions League game. But yes, we've been to Baku since I was last year. We've been
very nice.
More pertinently to Bergamo for the Atalanta game last week. And here, there and everywhere for other Chelsea games. And then, of course, imminently to another foreign trip to Cardiff.
Wow. And the most difficult trip you probably had out of all those was coming here on a train today with this
pretty much.
rail system.
Merry Christmas from the railway companies. Thank you very much to them for bringing that festive cheer to both of us.
We were both at the Everton game, joined by Jack Rosser, who has just been chatting to Enzo Maresca after his maybe infamous press conference. Maybe it'll go down as that.
It was kind of so softly spoken that maybe it's not quite an outburst, but it was nonetheless shocking for that. It was weird. It's been a weird week at Chelsea, and this was the weirdest bit of it, I think.
Yeah, well, let's start with the Everton game, because it was a game that obviously Chelsea got a much needed win in December at last, and things, at least from my point of view, seemed as though they'd gone pretty well. Another clean sheet, 3 points, into the top four again. And everything seemed to be going fine. It wasn't a convincing... Back. Yeah, Palmer's back. Palmer's scoring. We'll get onto that later. And the defence utterly solid as well. It wasn't necessarily a convincing win because Everton had a lot of chances and could have easily been 4-4, 3-3, one of those games. But those are the kind of games where if you're a serious team, serious about winning things, you've got to go and get a bit of luck in those games, and Robert Sanchez performed well again. It was another good defensive display. Again, we'll get onto that. But while things didn't go wrong on the pitch, they seem to have gone wrong off it.
Yeah, and I don't, as I say, it's a weird, when you've been on a 4-match winless run, albeit one of those was the draw with Arsenal, which Chelsea came out with a lot of credit. It's undeniable that the run of 3 poor away performances and results had brought some heat on Maresca and on the hierarchy at the club. The fans seem to be a little bit split between who to blame most for these three results. But what was strange, having got the result by hook or by crook against Everton on Saturday, that Maresca chose to say something he didn't really need to say. And I think as people have made the point that when Mo Salah speaks in mix zones, it tends to be not spontaneous and off the cuff. Yeah. And although some inside the club have tried to paint what Maresca said after the game as being a spontaneous emotional reaction, it feels like something that that was brewing, that he'd been thinking about. But it's a weird thing to say something like that and say you're not being supported, but then to specify where the lack of support is coming from or not coming from.
And to rule out the fans as part of the problem. And to rule out the fans, he made very clear that that wasn't what it was. And you would assume, if he hadn't have ruled it out, you would assume that that's who he meant.
Yeah, and also, if it were the media, then neither he nor most managers will be particularly shy about saying, well, you guys, you haven't really supported me. But in terms of support, he doesn't expect support from the media, or he certainly shouldn't do. Yeah. The support he wants to get is from his players, his fans, and those above him. And I don't think it's a massive. I don't think it's an overreaction on our part to suggest that this was aimed most of all at people above him. Now, which people and why is open to debate. But it as I say, it was a weird thing because the people above have expressed support for him on 2 separate occasions this season, when nobody was saying he was under pressure. So perhaps that is what it was. When it was after the Brighton game, and then after another game where the whole issue of the rotation came up. The word was put out, absolutely, Chelsea hierarchy completely behind their manager and completely supportive of a necessary policy of rotation to cope with the after effects of the Club World Cup and the short pre-season and the massive fixture list. But then I guess at a time where people were starting to question him, perhaps he felt that there was an absence of that kind of briefing going out again.
Yeah. Well, if you haven't seen already or heard what Maresca had to say in his press conference today ahead of the Cardiff game, this is what he had to say.
I already spoke about that, and I don't have nothing to add.
But you don't want to address at all the fact what you said?
I already spoke about that, and I think I was quite clear. No more than that. I respect your opinion, and I respect people's opinion, but again, I don't have nothing to add, and my focus is just on tomorrow game, that we can achieve the third semi-final in 18 months since I joined the club.
So basically, Enzo Maresca has revealed absolutely nothing. That's what he said in his press conference, basically.
The lid has not been lifted.
Yeah, the lid is still firmly on Enzo Maresca's secrets. So we didn't get any of them, basically. Just a bit more...
A refusal just to say what he meant, and a bizarre assertion that he'd already told us what he meant, which he hadn't.
Yeah,
so
well,
I mean that's and it only extends the problem. He could have killed it stone dead and just said could have just said what we were all told, that I was just a bit over emotional after a difficult one and relief at getting the victory, but he hasn't chosen to say that. So now everyone is free to speculate further.
More confusion, yeah.
Yes, there we go.
So I find a few things frustrating about this. As a Chelsea fan, firstly, a few things get on my nerves about this. The first thing is that I don't think he should feel as though he's not supported by anyone at Chelsea, because I think as fans, personally, I think as fans at Stamford Bridge, there isn't enough noise to back him. Mm-hmm. The stadium against Everton was very, very quiet.
Wasn't even full at kickoff.
Yeah, and compared to the Arsenal and Barcelona games, the atmosphere was brilliant, as you'd expect. But that Everton game was terrible. Chelsea are winning. They haven't conceded a goal. And it's just dead quiet. I feel like he's entitled to ask for a bit more support, because he's come in. He's been Chelsea's best manager under the new regime. He's won the Club World Cup. He won the Conference League. Got Chelsea back into the Champions League. Again, things this season are going well. They're still in a title race, considering all the red cards, the injuries to key players, not just squad players. This is Cole Palmer and Levi Colwill, our best attacker and best centre half.
And Moises Caicedo carrying a knock, which makes it hard for him. Enzo Fernandez carrying a knock. João Pedro carrying a knock. New £30 million striker, barely kicking a ball and then being injured all the time. He's got a lot to contend with. He's got
all these circumstances outside of his control, and I think he's actually doing a really good job of managing the team. He's got Reece James played 390 minutes in the last week and a half.
It's unheard of. No, I can't. We'd have to go back through the stats, but I'm not sure many other Chelsea managers have managed that.
Yeah,
for
I don't think
time.
Any. Like, he's done all this great work, and yet he still feels not supported. And like I said, we don't necessarily know why he doesn't feel supported. But if it is his criticism of his rotation and his tactics, and I don't think anyone really has a place to say that, because he's proven with what he's done so far that he deserves to be the Chelsea manager. I think it would be a travesty if he's gotten rid of, firstly because of the lack of options available to replace him, and the fact that they would also be unproven the same way he was when he was signed. It would feel like you're just starting again. I don't get it.
He's as you say, he's the only manager who's given this project under the new owners any sort of credibility whatsoever. The idea the idea that this kind of model can work, and I think when we were talking about support, you come back to that, because he has given the project that credibility, and like you say, it would be, I think, unfair just after this short period of games for him to be under pressure, because although there were some Chelsea fans after the Atalanta game criticising his tactics, his team selections, and his substitutions, there are also another group of Chelsea fans who were saying, well, for the amount of money that's been spent on new players, this squad does not look like a squad that's had £1.5 billion investment into it. That's not on him, and I think every club is unique. But the challenge for Maresca or any Chelsea manager is to try and produce results while following the model of young players and player trading. I mean, I have a certain amount of sympathy with people who suggest that Chelsea are now primarily a player trading company, which puts the football team out twice a week.
Yeah.
And that's flippant, but there's an element of truth to it, because the people who own the football club now are different to Roman Abramovich, and they have different priorities. And maybe sometimes it would be, maybe Maresca would like to hear from them more. I'm sure we would like to hear from them in public more rather than indirectly about how they think things are going and so on.
Yeah, and for the record, I don't think anyone is immune to criticism. I think people are perfectly within their rights to say, I don't think he necessarily should have played 3 right backs against Atalanta and none of them were playing right back. I think that's fair enough. But for there to be this much talk around whether he's going to lose his job or if he's going to stay, that to me is just wrong. And he can be criticised. Chelsea went through a bit of a tough run of a few games, but the win against Everton should have marked a moment of it's over. The tough run is over. Now this is something to build upon. And the fact that it's become this whole Maresca could be sacked is just ridiculous.
He has to, after what he said, he has to take a big share of the responsibility for that. As you say, because that, if we move on now to just to the football, I mean, I felt Chelsea were, with a couple of their chances were ruthless. They had other chances. Garnacho had a couple of opportunities, but I think they were fortunate that towards the end of that first half, Everton had 5 or 6 very clear openings, not clear chances, but clear openings. And there were a couple. I mean, you talked about Robert Sanchez. Robert Sanchez, the little diversion he got on the Idrissa Gana Gueye cross just stopped Tieno Barry tapping it in from inside the 6-yard box. I still think Barry could have done better, but the touch that Sanchez got sort of diverted it through his legs and he couldn't finish it. It reminded me a little bit of what happened in Atalanta, where Ademola Lookman got down the touchline, and again Sanchez got enough on the shot to sort of divert it away from where De Ketelaere was waiting to put it in. Of course, De Ketelaere would come back to haunt them. But again, I think Sanchez is doing well, though I think it's a little bit unfair, the chant which the Chelsea fans keep going with. It's hardly a massive confidence booster for him that he used to be not very good and now he's all right. Is damning with faint praise, because I think particularly in the recent games he's been one of their more consistent players.
Yeah, Sanchez has been brilliant, and as much as I would love to sit here and sing that chant for you, I think you'd need a rather big bleep in the middle of it. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to refrain. Not only is Robert Sanchez a big positive for Chelsea at the minute, let's talk positively about Chelsea, because that's what I like to do. I like to be positive about Chelsea, and one thing we need to do is we need to put the word out. The Premier League's best number 10 is back. The only man cold enough, I should say, to end Chelsea's December freeze. Cole by name, cold by nature, Cole Palmer is back.
And a massive relief for fancy football managers as well, I think.
Unless you plan on bringing in Malo Gusto, who also was absolutely unbelievable.
I mean, he's a super number of points from him at the weekend. Yeah, that would have been
insane from him. Unfortunately, probably no one has him in because, that was his second goal in how long? Yeah,
you wait how many years or however long his career's been for a senior Malo Gusto to go on to come along in space of a few weeks.
Exactly, but anyway, Cole Palmer so back, and that goal, I feel like that goal for him was a really important one. And I said this when we came in at half time. I said I think it was a Chelsea press officer I was chatting to, and I said that goal, it wasn't just the fact that he scored on his second start at Stamford Bridge of the season, the first time since Crystal Palace on the opening day.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the fact that he scored, but it was the manner in which he scored. Because
exactly.
When Cole Palmer last season was going through a bit of a rough spell, by his own admittance and noticeable by everyone at Chelsea and all Chelsea fans, it felt like they were the chances that he wasn't scoring. When Cole Palmer's at his best, it's that free-flowing, that almost killer instinct that he's got to just slot the ball in the back of the net. You saw it against PSG. Maybe the finest example was against Bournemouth, where he just, like, without thinking, he just sits the keeper down and rolls it in the back of the net. He's that kind of player where when he's thriving, when he's confident, they're the kind of chances he just
and playing on instinct
with ease.
And you're right, and that's what that finish said, because it was 20 or so minutes into the game after, let's be honest, virtually nothing had happened, and the only interesting thing that had happened was the little confrontation between Tarkowski and Maresca. But for him, if a lot of other players, or some other players, if that was the first chance they had after being out for so long, knowing the expectancy that there is in the crowd from him, and the possibility to overthink, they might have missed it, but he didn't. He gave. I look back at the different angles of the goal. He gave Pickford the eyes and just did him at his near post. In fact, both goals were Pickford being done at his near post, but he absolutely did him. You see him staring the far corner, and then just tucks it in the near. And to be able to do that almost without thinking is the sign of a really, really good player. I didn't think he had an amazing game, just as I didn't think he had his hour at Bournemouth previously wasn't fantastic. But it's his ability to do those killer things in the key moments which Chelsea really need, and which makes the difference between defeats and draws and wins.
And the other thing I really like about the goal, if you watch it, like you said, you watched it a few times, you would have noticed this as well, but I watched some slow-mo video of the goal, and you can tell right from the start, I can't remember who's on the ball. I think it's Wesley Fofana is on the ball.
Yeah.
And Cole Palmer is ready to make his run in behind the Everton defence. He tells Fofana, pass it to Gusto. Then he points at Gusto and says, I want the ball in here. And he's an orchestrator of the Chelsea attack. And I don't think without him, Chelsea have another player with that kind of, you don't often associate this word with Cole Palmer, that kind of intelligence to...
But the football intelligence...
It's out of this world.
No, the vision, and that's what you need. And he's still a relatively young man, obviously the whole team, but to have the confidence and ability, he's able to see the pass, he's able to pick the pass, and when he sees the pass, he's able to tell the other person what the pass is. But let's give Gusto his credit, because he does play at absolute perfection. Takes 4 Everton players out of the game with one pass, and I'm trying to remember now. Does he just finishes it first time, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he doesn't even take a touch. He doesn't even take a touch.
That's it.
So we were discussing this. I think the first choice France right back is Jules Koundé, and obviously scored twice in Champions League. So doing fine, playing for a fairly big club in Barcelona. But Malo Gusto has been getting in the France squad, and rightly so.
Yeah, I think Malo Gusto was excellent, and even his goal, it wasn't only the brilliant assist for Cole Palmer, but he then goes and orchestrates his own goal as well, because he starts it well in his own half, gives it to Neto. It's a simple move, it's 2 passes pretty much, but gives it to Neto, gets in the right area,
and runs like the clappers to get on the end of it.
And if Gusto can add that to his game, he's going to be a real threat for Chelsea, because often he gets in really good positions and traditionally he hasn't just been able to apply the finishing touch. But 2 goals now, who's to say there's not more to come?
And I think his versatility as well, which is another thing which will appeal to any manager, be it club or international level, is his versatility. And you think about the role he played against Liverpool in the Liverpool game, where he was sort of playing, he was lining up as the number 10, but he wasn't playing as number 10 at all. His most important work, apart from the moment where he set the ball, set it up for Caicedo to score, was off the ball, and his job was basically to stop Gravenberch and McAllister from playing, and it worked for the most of the game. An absolute treat. So he's another very intelligent footballer who's able to do a lot of things well. You give him instructions, whether you're Cole Palmer saying pass it there, or you're Enzo Maresca saying, right, this is your job today. Forget what you normally do. This is what you're going to do. I think he's excellent. He's been definitely one of the real pluses for Chelsea this season.
Yeah, he's tactically brilliant. And if you want to find out more about that, you can watch the Strasbourg to our show in Tactics Exposed with Dean Scoggins. He'll be sure to break down all of Malo Gusto's excellence for you. But we're going to move on to another brilliant French Chelsea defender in Wesley Fofana, because until recently, his Chelsea career has been a bit of a disaster, I think it's fair to say. So many injuries. when he has played, he hasn't necessarily looked like that defender that Chelsea bought from Leicester. But against Everton, and to give him credit, recently, after his minutes have been managed by Maresca, he's been, to me, far and away Chelsea's best centre-back. Him and Chalobah, when they've started together, the last 8 games they've started together, they've kept 7 clean sheets. And that obviously is Maresca's first choice pairing. He hasn't been able to use it all that much. And you'd imagine when Levi Colwill was at his best, he'll come back into that and partner Fofana there. But Wesley Fofana, I think he's been brilliant and he deserves some credit. So let's just talk about him and how good he was.
No, you're right. Because I remember looking back at when he joined Chelsea for what, 75 million quid.
It was a lot of money.
It's one of the most expensive defenders, not only in English football history but in world football history.
Yeah.
Absolutely huge amount of money, and that was on the basis really of a season and a half, maybe of doing really well at Leicester. So it's a very typical investment under this ownership. It's investing in potential and someone who might get even better, but if they don't, will still have resale value. Now, Fofana, as you say, has been injury plagued, had a really, really hard time right from the start.
Yeah.
But whether he can force his way back into the French squad is another matter, because they are, as in every position, stacked with decent centre backs. But he offers them something which the other options at right centre back don't. I mean, I think we've said before that Maresca's made a lot of the fact that losing Colwill is a big thing because of Colwill's distribution from the back. And when we were asking him about Colwill before, he was saying, well, Wes can do it. There are other players who can do it sometimes, but not as consistently. But I think the two of them and Fofana's ability to step out, not only to track his man sometimes right into the opposition half, but also to step out. It just allows them, and his confidence on the ball allows Chelsea just to play a little bit further up the field. I think, by the way, let's give some credit to Trevor Chalobah as well, who's played very consistently this season on merit, and has played in 3. He's played everywhere except left back. I think this season, and it doesn't sound like much of a change, but changing from left centre back to right centre back and back again, and sometimes with a different partner, that is disruptive. And it obviously they're professional footballers. They train all the time, and when Maresca knows his lineup, they'll be practicing those partnerships. But it's not easy to have a stable defence when the personnel and the combinations aren't the same. But going back to Fofana, I think he still has some way to go to reproduce that the level of form we've seen particularly in that second season at Leicester. But he's definitely on the way back, and you can see why. And you have to hope that, as with Reece James, that this managing of minutes gradually enables him to play 2 or 3 games per week. Because, as you say, when he plays, and particularly when he plays with Chalobah at centre back, Chelsea don't concede goals, and that's a really good start to winning games.
Yeah, and the last thing I wanted to add, because you summarised my thoughts on Fofana brilliantly there.
It's like a hive mind. It's like Stranger Things,
isn't it? But yeah, one thing I also love about Fofana is he's almost a bit villainous in how he attacks other attackers, and I love that bit with Njai where he turns around and does his little celebration back to him. I love that. I think that's really good. But unfortunately...
And the fans love him as well.
The fans do love him. And it was nice to hear Chelsea fans singing both his and Trevor Chalobah's name in the win against Everton. But unfortunately, Dan, as much as I would love to sit here and talk about Chelsea
so much
with
to
you
talk
a bit
about.
longer, Taylor Swift, we covered the lot right from the start.
A lot going on.
Yeah, a lot going on for sure. That definitely summarises Chelsea's week this week. But yeah, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Chelsea Exposed. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you think of Maresca's comments. Let us know what you think of the team, Palmer's return, how good Fofana's been. Tell us all of that down in the comments below. Thank you very much for your support, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.